Welcome back to Dodo's Den, where we talk about some of the best ways to navigate life that are endangered by society. We talk about them because if we don't, they might go extinct. I'm your host, Dorian, but you can call me Dodo, and today's topic is the loneliness epidemic. Now, one phrase that's been going around the internet these past couple of months and maybe even years is the male loneliness epidemic. But I want to focus more on the loneliness epidemic because after doing some research, I realized that the male loneliness epidemic doesn't really exist because it affects females too. A research project done on the Pew Research Center says that although even 16% of men in America say that they feel lonely or isolated almost all the time, 15% of females also say the same thing. So it's not just a male loneliness epidemic that we're going through, it's a loneliness epidemic that affects almost everyone. An epidemic essentially means an outbreak or a widespread disease that affects people rapidly in a very specific area. And this epidemic is very prominent in people my age or people a little bit older, sometimes maybe even younger. It says that people above the age of 50 don't really feel that lonely most of the time, but anybody under the age of 50 can feel lonely very, very rapidly and very, very prominently in today's day and age. See, I believe being lonely is a product of many different things in society. I think the feminist movement is one thing that tells women, especially, that they don't need men in their life. And this mindset is just being bled into everyone else's minds and thought processes. They think that they don't need anyone in their life to get to where they want to be. And while that may be true, it's important that community and not being lonely really does help you a lot more than being alone. I understand that sometimes you need to be alone to get things done. Sometimes you need to be alone to get the best work done. But in my life, personally, I find that I will be alone for a certain period of time, but I can't be alone for too long. I need community. I need connection. See, on YouTube, I see a lot of videos recommended to me of people saying, I isolated myself for so long that I became mentally retarded. And as funny as that may sound, it's honestly true. See, being lonely and having feelings of loneliness really affects your brain and cognitive abilities. I was looking online on how loneliness affects the brain, and it really can affect your cognitive abilities, emotional regulation, and can put you at risk of a lot of different health problems. And some of the main brain regions affected by loneliness is the prefrontal cortex, and I think that's the front part of your brain. And this focuses on decision making, problem solving, and emotional control. And it tends to shrink and almost decrease in its volume and density in lonely individuals. And that means that your decision making, your problem solving, and emotional control can all go haywire. You make worse decisions. You aren't able to solve problems that maybe were a little bit easier to solve before, and your emotions get the best of you. You may be more angry, more sad, and you just let your emotions take control of you. And it also affects the hippocampus. I'm not sure what that is in your brain, but I know it's a part of a brain. I know I've heard that many times in science class. And the hippocampus is focused on memory formation. And this is affected by loneliness. And when this is affected, this can lead to cognitive decline because when you're not able to make as many memories as easily and you're not able to pull from memories, it can essentially make you kind of just less smart. You lose intellectual content by being lonely because you're not around people that pour into you. And when I say pour into you, I mean that you need people in your life, at least in most areas, to show you that community is important. I'm a firm believer that in today's society, people promote being alone because you get a lot of stuff done alone. I know that a lot of people online, they say, go silent for a year and maybe you'll be rich. Or maybe if you just stop hanging around people who are bad for you, you'll just make a lot of money. And I think that's true. You can make a lot of money if you get rid of the bad people in your life, but you still need good people in your life. See, if you throw out a carton of eggs because one of them bad, you're gonna miss out on all the good eggs, if you know what I mean. So you can't just throw out all your friends or the chance to have community with others just because you don't want to soil your growth or success or experience in life. You need to take a chance with some people and just understand that the good people in your life are can are people that can really affect you in a positive way, and the bad people can also affect you in a negative way, but you shouldn't throw people out. See, in my life, I find that when I'm alone, I can get work done. But when I have people around me that all think of my goals and my passions as things that are true and things that can happen, they really make me want to do them even more and they hold me accountable. I saw this thing recently where this guy was saying that you shouldn't talk about your goals as much because that opens you up for people's doubts and people's confusion to knock you off your path. Maybe you have an idea of a business you want to create and you tell a bunch of people and they just tell you reasons that it wouldn't work. And I can see why that knocks people off their path, but what about the people that can pour into you, tell you ways maybe your idea isn't the best, but they can give you reasons to make it better? See, I had a conversation with a guy yesterday about the fact that I want to start making better videos, but I don't really know how to go about it. And it was some random guy. I don't really even talk too much. I maybe smile at him and say, "What's up, bro?" when I see him. But he really poured into me and made me think harder about this thing I wanted to do. And maybe not make me not want to do it, but essentially just make me think a little harder. Try to make this more of a reality. To me, it holds me accountable when I'm able to tell people. It doesn't make me someone who just thinks of it as impossible because someone told me their doubts, and because they told me their doubts, it can't be possible. It really just comes down to discernment and understanding that you need to still go after things even if people tell you no, but don't always think that if there's nobody around, you're going to get things done quicker all the time. Sometimes you have those people in your life who can help you get things done a lot faster than you would get done otherwise if you're just alone. Community is very, very important, especially in my life, and I think it's important for you as well. You see people all the time talking so much about individualism and how the fact that people nowadays, they don't need anyone to become successful. But you see more people lonely than ever they've ever been in the entire span of existence. It's really honestly crazy how many people are lonely with this many opportunities to meet people online or anything. But I think it's honestly a social media thing where people talk so much about just grinding and staying silent, and it's so funny. It feels almost like you're in a crowd of people, yet you're so lonely. There's so many opportunities and ways to meet people and become connected with others, yet we're more lonely than we have ever been in the entire span of existing. It's crazy when you think about it. And I think it's crazy. I think community is so important because although it's super important to take time alone, take time alone when you need time alone, especially if you're someone with a lot of things going on, if you have a lot of people in your life that want things from you. I know in the Bible, in certain parts of the gospel, I think around Mark verse 45, it talks about how Jesus had to spend some time alone because he had just been healing people and teaching people about the miracles that he could perform, and they were asking him so much that he just had to go and be alone for a little bit. And then when he came back, they alerted everyone and they said, "Hey, Jesus is back, he can heal you, blah 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 blah." But he had so much stuff going on and he had to just be alone, maybe to pray, maybe to talk to God. We don't really know what he was doing when he was alone, but he had to go alone. He had to go be away for a little bit to understand if he was doing the right thing, if God was really working through him. It's really important to take time alone when you have a lot going on. But when you don't have a lot going on, I guess in contrast to Jesus and his story, it may be a good idea to get with community. Maybe if you aren't always busy and you have a lot of free time in your days, in your weeks, or whatever it may be, it might be time for you to find a community. I know a couple of weeks ago, I had someone really close to me ask me to pray that they can find a men's group, someone they are super important to me. They're almost like a authority figure in my life. They asked me to pray that they find a group. And it's very interesting because they're around people all the time and their job consists of talking to people. And it still shows you that people can still feel so lonely and have that lack of connection, even though they're around people and interacting with others all the time. It happens too often. And I had someone ask me to pray for them, and it shows me how real it is that even though we can be surrounded with people and see people every single day, that doesn't necessarily mean connection. We don't want to feel lonely. We don't want that feeling of loneliness in our life because it doesn't do anything but hurt us. See, whenever I'm lonely, I find that I don't really attack my goals and ambitions as good as I want to. I know this past summer I was in Colorado and I spent a lot of my time in Colorado with my older brother, and that was an avenue where I didn't feel as lonely because it was my brother. I spent most of my life with him, and he's a great brother. But even though I spent time with him, I still had to go to work and I still had to pursue my passion of making videos. And I still at times felt lonely. I felt like I needed connection. So I went on a lot of dating apps and I even went to church a lot and tried to find a church group. And it just goes to show that even though I was with my brother and even though I was working a job, I was working at Whole Foods and I had a great staff and people that I really loved working around, I still craved connection. And that's one thing that we're always going to crave. We're going to crave connection between people just to give us a sense of belonging and a sense of fulfillment, because that's an area in our lives that we always need to fill. It's almost like our life is cut up like a pie, and that's one of the sections of that pie is community. And if we're just always focusing on money or financial freedom or success and we don't focus on community, it's just going to leave a hole in our pie or our life that we need to fill. And I find that when people are lonely, especially men, I know that they can fall to a lot of lustful temptations like pornography or any other bad decisions like drugs and alcohol. You just try to fill this hole, but you need connection. So, knowing how this epidemic affects us in our generation, how do we fight it? Well, one of the main ways we can affect this epidemic in a way that maybe helps other people is by simply approaching more people and making small connections. When it comes down to loneliness, we can't really do much for other people other than try to make them feel wanted and connected and less lonely ourselves. We can't affect the masses unless we just go out and simply make them feel less lonely. And this simply comes from us approaching more people, going against the grain, because in today's day and age, approaching people, being authentic, making people feel wanted and feeling like they are truly belonging in whatever space they're in at that moment. And you coming off in a sense that you're authentic, you're not trying to get anything from them or get something across to them. You just want them to feel wanted. And maybe it means nothing to you, but at least you're making them feel less lonely. It's so amazing the power we have by simply speaking and making people feel like they're present. You never know when you tell someone that you like their shirt or their shoes, and maybe they feel so lonely and they're just having the worst day and experience of their lives. And maybe you're out on the street and randomly they can feel wanted. Because even in a, say you're in a big city like New York, and there's people all around, those people can feel so lonely even though there's people everywhere they turn their eyes. You telling them that you like their shirt, you like their shoes, maybe starting a small conversation with them, making that small connection in their life when they maybe don't have that many other connections. That's how you fight this epidemic. You make people feel wanted, less lonely. You make people feel like they belong. Because being alone and being lonely are two different things. You can be alone, and that's when people aren't present. But loneliness is when you feel like you have no connection with the people around you or people in general, even if you're in a room full of humans and people that look all identical to you, or maybe they look like you should be their friends or they would be your friends. You'd be surprised. There's people on college campuses, on sports teams that feel so lonely even though they see people every single day. So the best way we can fight this epidemic and fight loneliness in the world is by making people feel wanted and making those small connections with people that cost us nothing but time. But that time really could save someone's life without us even knowing. So how do we fight this in our own lives if we don't want to be affected by this epidemic? We can have more people where we can be ourselves, more people in our lives that we can be our true, authentic selves. Like I said, the pie, we can have the whole pie in our relationships. In my life, I have truly experienced the most feelings of being wanted whenever I have made people understand that I can be sad, I can be happy, I can be expressive, I can be closed off. They've seen all the different aspects of me. And when those people have seen all the different aspects of me, they feel more connected to me. Like they know every part of who I am. There's been times in, my sport of track and field where I don't run the best race ever, and I'm really, down, and I'm so sad, and I'm thinking really hard, and maybe I'm staring at the ground. Some of my teammates that have seen me in my good state, see me in my bad state, see me in very interesting states, they feel connected to me. So they come up to me after that race and they say, "Hey, dude, what's wrong? Hey, it's okay, blah, blah, blah." They speak to me, they talk to me, and maybe they don't necessarily make me feel better at the moment. But later on down the line, I will really appreciate that. When you're really angry and someone comes and pats you on the back and says, "Oh, it's okay," you still may be angry. But later when you're less angry and you've cooled off, you can really appreciate the fact that that was a connection, and that shows you that connection is pure and it's beautiful. But I wouldn't have that with people unless I was my authentic true self and I wasn't being every aspect of who I am. See, around my teammates where I just act one specific way, maybe I try to be cool, or maybe it's a girl that's pretty, so I'm always acting this one way and I'm not being a different person, or maybe showing different aspects of who I am. They don't know how to respond. They don't know how to comfort me. I can think about all the teammates that I see every single day in my sport, and yet they don't know me because I am not myself around them. I am just a certain person. Maybe I'm trying to act cool. Maybe I'm trying to impress them. Maybe I'm just being this person who's putting on a mask to those teammates. And maybe it's teammates that are younger than me and I want to play a leadership role, so I'm always acting like this big bossy leader. When I'm down and when I'm really sad, they're not going to know how to react because they don't feel connected to me. Yet when I'm myself around my teammates that I spend a lot of time with, and I'm every single emotion you can think of around me, they've seen it all from me. They know how to react and they feel connected to me and obligated to help me. See, you feel less lonely when people have the obligation to come help you when you're going through hard times. And those obligations and those people coming over you to make you feel comforted and just calm you down, that makes you feel wanted. That makes you feel like you belong. And it's so beautiful. There's been so many times in my life where I've had people come up to me and just comfort me and make me feel better about a situation. And after thinking about it for a long time, those people have seen me at my worst, see me at my best, see me when in different areas, when I'm very happy or very confused or very angry. They've seen so many aspects of who I am, so they feel connected to me. You got to be yourself, be different aspects of who you are around the people you care about. Because if you're not, and you're just putting on a mask around people, they aren't going to be there for you when you need them. Because they've only ever seen you one way. So when they see you a different way, they're not going to know how to comfort you. They're not going to know how to react. You have to be yourself around some people. And the people that you're yourself around, they can come to you because they've seen you be slightly sad before. So now when you're a little bit more sad, they know how to react a little bit better. So you have to be yourself around people. And I found that one of the best ways to build those connections with the people where you're yourself is you got to ask them for advice. You got to ask them for help. You got to make them feel like they're valuable to you and they're just a valuable friend in your life. See, when I think about it, I know that a lot of the people that have come to comfort me, have been there for me when I need them, have texted me, hey, how are you doing? Just checking up. Those are people that I ask for help, I ask for advice, I go to when I'm in trouble. Those are people that I think of that are people that mean a lot to me. And I make sure I let them know that. When you ask somebody for help or advice or their thoughts on any given situation, that shows them that you care about them enough to take their insight and apply it to your own situation. You're taking them and applying it to your own unique and specific life. That's so insane, and that takes so much bravery. And sometimes it doesn't seem like a lot, but it means a lot to someone. Think about if someone came up to ask you for advice, someone that you don't feel that connected to, and they said, hey man, can you give me advice on this situation? Can you help me with this? I don't know what to do. You're going to be like, wow, they care about me enough for me to give my own input into their own unique situation. That's crazy. You're going to feel more connected to that person. You build more connection and you feel less lonely when you give people the opportunity to add to your life. And when you give people opportunity to add to your life, they feel more connected to you, which makes them feel less lonely, and you feel less lonely as well. Because when you have those spots where you feel alone and you have no one, those people that you ask for help, and you showed them that you value them in every aspect of who they are and their insight and their thoughts, and you've applied it to your life, they can say, well, they valued me enough. Let me value them enough to show them that I care when they're going through a hard time. It's simple, practical tips that people don't tell you because nowadays people are just absorbed by social media in a sense of just feeling like they need to be a certain thing. Going up and approaching people and just being someone that's different, you don't see that a lot. People that want to make people connections, you want to make people feel connected and wanted and make them feel like they belong. You don't see that because nowadays people feel like, oh, if someone's coming up to me, they want something from me. And me, myself, I even do this a lot. I feel that whenever I try to meet a new girl that's attractive, I cannot help sometimes of thinking, what if I make them my girlfriend? What if I go on a date with them? But I need to just value connection because I don't know that person. I don't know them. I don't want them to feel like I'm trying to get something from them when I don't even know them. I'm losing out on the opportunity for connection and a good friendship, and maybe they could feel lonely. You would be surprised. Some of the people who are some of the most attractive, it's crazy nowadays because people say that men never approach women nowadays because they're so scared and they don't want to be labeled as this, and this. And the women, sometimes even the most attractive women, don't ever get approached. And maybe they feel the most lonely. And you think, oh, there's no way they can feel lonely. They're so attractive. And people have to want to talk to them. But yeah, you have people talking to you online or anything, but online connections isn't really true or isn't really as good as in-person social connections. When I come up to you, if I saw you on the side of the street and I try to get to know you and you leave that situation or conversation with me feeling like, oh, I didn't want anything from you. I just wanted a conversation and I wanted to get to know you. And you're going to want to see me again. You're going to want to feel connected to me and maybe build that friendship. And maybe if we see each other again, we could be even more connected. I want to do that more often. And I feel like we need to do that more often because we need to approach more people. Just get to know them. Don't necessarily try to make them feel like, you know, they're a piece of meat that you're just only trying to get one thing out of them because that's what a lot of people do nowadays. Just make more connections. Get to know people. I really envy the people or the guys especially that can go out, talk to attractive girls and not want anything from them. They just want to talk to these attractive girls and or they don't even have to be that attractive. Maybe you just like something about them and you just get to know them and you bring that connection up. People appreciate that. You make them feel wanted. You build their confidence when you just come up to them for no reason and just try to get to know them. Maybe show that you're interested. Maybe you don't try as hard to get their number or take them out on a date, or you just get to know them. Build that connection. Make them feel less lonely, because people at clubs and bars, they can even feel so lonely even though there's people all around. Because imagine if you go to a club or a bar and no one approaches you. There's always people coming to you only trying to get one thing from you. You don't feel connected to anyone. You don't feel lonely. Well, you do feel lonely. That's why you need to appreciate the people who come up to you out of the blue and just try to get to know you. It seems weird. I know my freshman year here in college, I had so many people just come up to me randomly and want to get to know me and just ask me what I was doing whenever I sat by myself. And maybe it doesn't happen as much anymore, but I used to think that was so odd. But now I'm like, wow, that was really beautiful. And I'm glad they did that. I didn't feel like they wanted anything from me. They just wanted me to feel wanted. They wanted me to feel like I belonged. And that was amazing. And I feel like we need to do more of that. We need to be the people that counteracts this epidemic, because people on social media, they won't tell you this. Because a lot of this means getting off of social media, making more connections face to face rather than online, or buying online courses or services to help you talk to people. You don't need to pay money to do this. You just need to go do it. See, I've been having tons of conversations where I go up to people and maybe they don't like the fact that I'm coming up to them. Some people really, really, really appreciate it, but some people don't. And sometimes, I don't know what it is, but when you have so many good interactions, just one bad interactions can make you feel like, oh, I give up. I know plenty of times when I try to go up to girls and I try to talk to them and get to know them, I can have 5 girls who just love the fact that I approached them, but there's a sixth girl that I try to go up to and she just hates it. And I have, even though that small bad thing, like I said earlier, the one bad egg in the dozen, it can make you want to throw all of it out. But you can't throw all of it out. You got to keep going, keep interacting with people. You need friends in your life. You need those connections. The loneliness epidemic is something that is so, so true. It's not just with males, like people online will try to tell you, it's with females too. The most attractive females ever say they feel like people don't approach them and they feel lonely. It's crazy that social media and all these people try to promote individualism and just throwing out your friends and being silent, being to yourself, making this money, but that doesn't equal success. Your brain function is so important, and I talked about how being lonely can affect your cognitive abilities. The loneliness epidemic is something that is bad. It's so bad because so many people go through it. There's people on my college campus that I see every single day. And when I see people not smiling or not talking to anyone, that shows me that they're probably lonely. And I have the opportunity sometimes to talk to those people, but I choose not to, just because I'm absorbed with my own world and things that I want to do. But sometimes I have to pop out of my own bubble and realize that there's people I could be helping with almost no effort. Talk to people, make small connections. You never know when you could meet someone who's gonna be at your wedding one day. Or maybe you meet a girl that's your future wife, or maybe if you're a girl, it could be your future husband. You never know when it could happen. We have to counter this loneliness epidemic by being people who says, screw being lonely. I don't want to be lonely, so I'm going to make connections. I don't want other people to be lonely, so I'm going to make them know that they're belonging in this given situation. Even if it's out in a group of people, in a nightclub, out on the street, anywhere. You can feel alone. You can feel lonely when there's so many people around. I've seen it happen. Just like that one person in my life that asked me for prayer, they see people every single day and they still feel lonely. That was a real world example. And maybe you have examples of your own. But we need to fight this epidemic. There's plenty of ways we can fight it in our own lives, but we need to help people fight it themselves. And some of the best ways to help us not be lonely ourselves helps other people as well. So we got to fight this epidemic. And I hope you can join me in just making the loneliness epidemic cease to exist. People are always going to be lonely, but at least we can try to make them feel like they're wanted, like they belong, and like they have connection in their lives. It starts with us, and I hope you can join me. Thank you so much for listening, watching, consuming this content, wherever you're getting it from. And that was episode 3. Hope you guys can come back for the next episode, and hope you have a blessed day. Peace.